watching Talking About Orcs.
In this episode of Talking About Orcs, 6th edition, we're going to be going over the Weirdboy. The Weirdboy was pretty much the least seen HQ choice on the table throughout 5th edition. And even now in 6th edition it's not much better, but at least he has a place. Whereas before I don't think he had any place whatsoever. So let's talk about where you would use a Weirdboy and why you would use a Weirdboy. The first thing you have to know when having Weirdboy in a unit is that he will give you a +1 to your Deny the Witch, which is not great, but it's not bad either. So target unit is one or more psykers of lesser or equal mastery level to the model is get a +1. So it's a 5+ Deny the Witch, which would be really awesome if you could put a Weirdboy on a bike and put him with the non-bikers, but unfortunately no such luck. So that's one good use for the Weirdboy. But the other primary use is, of course, the Wah. So you want to take a Warp Head, to give you a better chance of getting that Wah, and then of course you can buy it with Daka Jets. This is nothing new. They were trying it at the end of 5th when the Daka Jets came out. The difference, of course, is that in 5th edition the Daka Jets weren't that great. I mean, they were okay. The fast skimmers died horribly fast to missile launchers and everything else. But right now flyers are very hard to kill for some armies, not orcs of course, but other armies have problems with flyers. So running a dual warp head list with 3 Daka Jets, or if you go to dual force orgs, you could even go to 6 Daka Jets, is going to give you a lot of power, a lot of shooting power. So what is going to put in a list that's centered around getting this power off? The HQs, of course, will be 2 warp heads. Then you're going to want some shooter boys, probably 30-man units. Knobs are optional here because you're not really going to be assaulting much. You're going to be really depending on shooting. If you want to go run dual force orgs, you could run 2 of these guys and still run a KFF mech, or maybe a shock attack gun mech or 2. It's kind of hard to fit in 2,000 points though. So at that point, you're starting to run out of the points for the Daka Jets. So you're running with shooter boys, and the reason why you run the shooter boys is because with the Here We Go power, you want to be able to go across the table, because that's going to give you the speed that you otherwise lack in this list. Being able to just Here We Go and suddenly deep strike and shoot 50, 60 shoot shots is going to be a good important part of the list. Then you're going to run Ludas, of course, with an Aegis defense line, and you want to give the Aegis defense line a comms relay, and that'll give you +1 to your reserve rolls, which you want to make sure and get your Daka Jets in turn 2 if possible. So getting that +1 to reserve rolls from the comm link will help with that quite a bit, and that way you don't have to try and depend on getting that Warlord power. And then of course Daka Jets with the BS3 upgrade and the extra set of super shooters, and you'll just have the Orc flying circus, so to speak. So you're not going to have very much, and if you have some points left over, you can fill it up with big guns. But generally in 2,000 points you can get 2 warp heads, 90 shooter boys, 20 to 30 Ludas, the 3 Daka Jets, and a couple of big guns, all in 2,000 points. And that is a lot of firepower. So you're going to have, of course, there's always a chance of the other things like +1 attacks, so if you do get a charge off or something charges you, you can have that extra attack. For shooter boys is going to be really nice. And of course there's Warlord traits. Warlord traits will definitely help the Weirdboys out quite a bit. So what kind of things are you going to be looking for when you're doing the Weirdboy list? The main one you want to go for, of course, is the true strategic genius. Is where you get to re-roll any reserve rolls, failed or successful. So if you're forced to go first, and you don't want your Daka Jets to come in because you're going to be shot down by your opponent's flyers on his turn, you can try and re-roll successful reserve rolls to keep them off the table a turn. So this is probably the one you're going to want to go for, if possible. Of course, this one's good too if your opponent has flyers that you want to shoot down, giving your opponent a -1 modifier to his reserve rolls to keep his flyers off is also good. But I said the point is you want to get your planes on after theirs. And of course, those are strategic traits. You get ruins. So strategic traits for the dual warphead list is probably one of the better options instead of hope for 3 or 4. I mean 4 or 5. Command traits. If you're worried about coming up against any sort of close combat army, going for the command traits might not be a bad idea, because then you get, if you're by an objective, you get to reroll hits of 1 when shooting. How good is that with shooter boys? You get counterattack. Is that what it is? Move through cover, it's not too bad. Extra run. So these are okay. The personal traits aren't too bad. Getting the feel no pain with an objective. You put them with just shooter boys, get on an objective, and get the feel no pain for a unit of 30 shooter boys. Yeah, that could be really good. Of course, there are a lot of useless ones in here, like where you can get Furious Charge, of course. I hate rolling Master of Offense on the personal traits. But outside of this very specific build, I don't think the Weirdboy is very good. And that's because he doesn't get book powers, which is, to me, one of the great tragedies. Is that the word I'm looking for? The worst thing that could happen to Orks in 6th edition. But then again, if some of these powers were given to Orks, I can see where it'd be really broken. And it'd be hard pressed not to take at least one Weirdboy if I could take a book power. If not 2. Let's start with Biomancy. What would you do with a Weirdboy? The obvious one, actually, is Divination, and take the Primaris power, which is Guide. I can't imagine Orks having this power right here. Give your shooter boys or your Ludas twin link, and then in combat too. So you go in, you twin link your shooters before you assault or on Overwatch, and then you get rerolls to hit in combat. I can see why they didn't give Orks these kind of things. See, reroll successful saves. I think Divination is really good in general, but if Orks had Divination, oh my gosh. Of course, we can take Divination with allies, but we can't actually cast them on Ork units. So something like if you had Misfortune with an allied psyker, where you could make it, the target unit must reroll failed saving throws. That could be really good. Throw this on a Marine unit before you pound them with Ludas. That would be really good. And let's just kind of go into allied psychic powers, what you want to look for. So Divination is useful, kinda, on an allied psyker. But Biomancy on allied psyker is probably a lot better. Because then you can get, of course, Enfeeble is the one you want to try and go for. I don't think Enfeeble stacks, by the way, just so you know. But that's the one, that's the one you want to go for, is Enfeeble. God, if this was, if you could, Weirdboy could take Endurance too. Yeah, there's nothing in here that's really bad for Weirdboys. Enfeeble would be great. So you have to look at, if you're going to take an allied psyker, you definitely need to look at what kind of powers to give them. I think Misfortune, or even, let's see, that's a Blessing, that doesn't work. Yeah, I don't think there's anything in Pyromancy that's good as an allied. Telepathy, addiction. Yeah, maybe telepathy would be good for an ally because there's 3 maledictions in here, plus a couple witchfire. So I don't think you'd roll a bad power here on telepathy because there's only 1 blessing. So yeah, telepathy would also be good for a allied psyker. But anyway, I'm going to continue lamenting the lack of book powers on Weirdboys for the entire 6th edition, or until we get a new book, whichever comes first. I really, really think Orks needed that. But until then, of course, combine your Weirdboys with Dakajets, and I don't think you can go wrong. Because it's going to be hard to beat 18 strength 6 shots, twin linked, from a flyer. I mean, it just sounds really freaking awesome to start with. 18 twin link BS 3 shots, I should say. It's kind of a non-traditional orc list because there's almost no plus combat. You don't want to assault. It's just going to be all shooting. But it's definitely an option to think about when you're building a list, especially if you're planning on going to a tournament. Pure DACA orc list, which is pretty much what I'm playing now, except I play now biker, so it's not anywhere close to a pure shooting list. But yeah, so that's pretty much all I have to say. Is I'm kind of sad for Weirdboys, but they definitely have their place in a specific build. Thanks for watching.